Right guys, welcome back to episode 4 of the throwback series of the London Docks carp fishing. And yeah, on this particular episode, I'm going to talk about a fish that I like to call the friendly ghost common. You know, most people that fish over here, they tend to just call it the big ghosty. But the reason for me calling it the friendly ghost common is because I've had the opportunity. You know, I've been lucky enough to catch this fish probably, 5 or 6 times now. It's a bit of a mad fish when it comes to sort of its weight. You know, it sort of fluctuates really mad in weight. You know, I've caught it at like 26, 27 pounds sometimes, and then I've caught it down at 19 pound. You know, not too long after. And it's not really around spawning time that I'm catching this fish. So it's like it really fluctuates mad with weight. This fish in particular is a very greedy fish, you know, very, very greedy fish. Absolutely loves bread. As you can see now, you know, this fish absolutely loves taking bread off the surface. There's many a times I used to come over in the afternoon just to come over and feed this fish bread. Because this fish, it was a bit of a mad one where I'd say, you know, all the fish are in here, they're old, you know, and they've all been around. But this fish in particular, you know, it's sort of been around the dock and the block, and it was bang on the clock, as I always used to say. You know, I could sort of bet with friends when this fish would roll in, you know, to the 5-10 minutes, I'd sort of say to friends, you know, the ghosty would be here any minute now, and it'd sort of roll in, you know. And many a times in the afternoon, you know, as you just saw in that video, I would go and feed the fish bread, you know, off the surface, because it absolutely loves bread. And it would be there every afternoon, it would be at that time. And, you know, that same day, if I went somewhere else at 8 o'clock in the evening, she would be somewhere else. And she'd be there sort of like every other day, you know, or every day I'd catch her in the same sort of places. So yeah, a bit of a mad one in that sense. And yeah, very, very greedy fish, and can be a mega bully. Like, there could be 5 or 6 fish feeding down on the spot, and she would just roll in, you know, she'd smash into them as if they were spawning sort of thing, just to push them out of the way so that she could have the food that was down there. And on many of occasions that I've caught this fish, she's sort of like, you know, I've caught her so many times now that I don't really think that she fights anymore. Like, she's not really putting up that much of a scrap. But to be honest, like, there'd be like 5 or 6 fish down feeding in the edge, and if she sort of rolled in and there was bait down there, you know, and I had a baited rod out, I'd sort of whip it in, because I knew that if she rolled in and there was a baited rig down there was 9 times out of 10 that all the fish that were down there feeding, even if you knew that you had a chance of catching one of the other ones, I'd sort of bring the rod in, because you was guaranteed to probably catch her. You know, she was so greedy that, you know, she'd sort of push all the other fish out of the way just to grab hold of the rig herself. So yeah, there was many a times where I've had to bring in a baited rig just to stop myself from having another recapture. But I'm going to talk about this one actual time that I actually caught her. Like I said, you know, I've caught her quite a few times. I've caught her with friends. I've let friends catch her before when she's rolled in. I've sort of whipped my rod in and said, go on, you fish for her, sort of thing, because you're guaranteed to have her. And yeah, they've had her, you know. Danny, who I spoke about in previous episodes, he done exactly the same thing in here, you know. He caught her exactly when she rolled in, and I said, Dan, put a rod out and you'll have her. But on this one occasion that I actually caught her was a bit of a mad one, because I'd sort of come over the night before, as always, you know, to put a bit of bait out, and it was relatively clear out. But when I came over at like 4 AM in the morning, the next morning, the water was absolutely clouded up, and it just looked absolutely mental. And I thought to myself, you know, is the tide coming in? So I sort of checked on my phone and checked the tide times, and the tide times weren't due in until like 6:30 like in the morning. So it was like another 2 hours before the tide was actually going to come in. So I was thinking, why is the water so clouded up? So anyways, got myself sort of like set up and that, got my brolly out and bits and pieces, because on that morning it was forecast that there was going to be some heavy rain showers. So yeah, I sort of got my bits and pieces set up and that, got a rod out and got it all set up, you know, multi-rig as always, you know, 20mm pop-up, and yeah, sort of like just whacked it out in the middle of the dance floor. And yeah, that was the call, you know, to be honest. It was a lock-in at the local pub for the bream, you know. They was having an absolute party and feasting on the food that I'd put out the night before, you know, the old midnight buffet sort of thing. So yeah, you guessed it, you know, one after the other, you know, in the cloudy water, I was smashing into bream after bream after bream. You know, and after 3 or 4, you know, even after 1 or 2, you know, I've had enough sort of thing, and I want to go home. But, you know, I sort of stuck it out, you know, reeled in, chilled out for a little while. But while I was just chilling there, all of a sudden, you know, one of them heavy showers just turned up and absolutely hammering it down, you know, absolutely caning it down for a good 20 minutes or so. So yeah, like, I was just stuck, you know, underneath my brolly as it absolutely hammering it down. And you know, as soon as it sort of like turned up, you know, as soon as it sort of went, you know, within 20 minutes it was gone again. And as always, you know, the sun's always there this time of the morning, beaming down into the spot, you know, where I fish. So yeah, it was like, as soon as it had come, as soon as it had gone, like. So yeah, I thought to myself, yeah, it's good to get a rod out again. So sort of like baited my rods back up again, you know, clean pop up and stuff like that. Just making sure the hook was sharp and stuff. I sort of flicked it back out and sort of like just sitting there chilling, you know, reading a couple of, I was reading the Carp autobiography at the time, to be honest, and just having a couple of cups of coffee and that, and just chilling. And all of a sudden, you know, the bottle caps hit the floor and I got a steady take. Like, it was relatively steady, you know, it weren't anything like too like hectic or anything like stripping line or anything. It was just like a slow take. And then the bream don't really take line, to be honest. So I knew it weren't a bream. You know, when you're fishing like 4 or 5 ounce leads, normally, you know, the bottle cap just falls on the floor sort of thing and the tip just bangs, so you sort of know you're into a bream. But, you know, I knew this was a carp, but as soon as I picked up the rod and started playing it, you know, I knew straight away it was relatively a small one. Sort of like, yeah, played it, nothing hectic at all, sort of like got the net under it, scooped it up, yeah, lifted it out, you know, got a few self-takes. As you can see, it was this lovely little lin, like beautiful little fish, you know, got a few self-takes, nothing major, like nothing perfect, but yeah, just wanted to get the rod back out, so sort of like put the fish back and sort of like got the rod ready again, got it back out on the spot and then sort of like sat back to chill. You know, I waited a good hour or so now without nothing, you know, nothing at all had happened. And it was getting to the time now where I was having to like sort of like get ready to sort of like start getting ready to go, because I can't stay here till late because obviously the boats come out. So yeah, getting bits and pieces ready together, and I was sort of like walking bits and pieces back and forth from the car, and my car's only like 15-20 yards away, but you know, you're down the docks, you know, you've got to keep an eye on your stuff, you know, your stuff can easily just grow legs and walk off, you know, you've got to keep your wits about you down here. So yeah, I was sort of walking bits and pieces back and forth to the car, and I sort of got the boot open of the car, and as I've got the boot open and I'm walking bits and pieces back, I've sort of dropped stuff over by the back of the car, and as I've sort of dropped some stuff down, I've heard the bottle cap hit the floor. And I've sort of like, no, like, so I've sort of run over and grabbed the rod, but the fish is absolutely stripping line now, but luckily it ain't going underneath the jetties, you know, it's going out to the right here, you know. So, you know, that's a lucky thing for me, to be quite honest, because the fish go underneath the jetties, you know, you're relatively like, you know, you're getting snagged up sort of thing. So yeah, but now also, you know, I'm paranoid that my gear is over on the floor at the back of my car, and you know, there's a little structure here. It's nothing major, but it's enough to, you know, to keep your visibility from you trying to watch your stuff and also trying to watch where your gear is, sort of thing. So yeah, I'm literally there trying to pay attention to like my gear as well as I'm trying to play the fish, and I can't really concentrate too much because obviously I'm trying to watch my gear, but I'm obviously trying to control the fish as much as I can. But the fish, to be honest, is just absolutely steaming right, you know, and it's just steaming 100 miles an hour. And at first I thinking to myself, you know, this ain't even a carp. I'm thinking to myself, this is a catfish. Like, the way this fish was fighting, it was going absolutely crazy. Like, it was just stripping line, stripping line, stripping line. I'm thinking to myself, no way is this a carp, you know, I couldn't stop it. But I'm sort of paranoid, you know, now, because I'm trying to watch my gear and that. And I'm sort of cranking down on the reel and that. It's nothing, like the fish is just steaming, steaming, steaming. And all of a sudden, you know, the line just went completely limp. And at the time, you know, I didn't even know what had happened, but, you know, obviously I know what had happened now, because what had actually happened is the fish had obviously turned around out there and it had started swimming back towards me as fast as it had swam away from me. So now I'm trying to crank down on the reel as much as I can, and I can't even keep up with the fish, you know. I'm just getting nothing. I'm reeling down, I ain't getting anything. All I'm getting is like slack line, slack line, slack line. So yeah, I'm doing it as fast as I can, and all of a sudden, you know, the fish, I've sort of caught up with it, but it's sort of whacked round to the right, and now the fish is underneath the jetty, you know, he's gone steaming underneath the jetty. So I'm like, oh no, now I've got to lay down on my chest, you know, put the rod tip in the water, because I know now, you know, that the line's going to go underneath the jetty. But luckily enough, as I sort of look to my left of where I am, sort of laying on the floor, an old boy's come walking along with his dog, who always walks around early in the mornings, you know, always comes and has a chat with me, sort of thing. So I, you know, had a bit of sign of a relief, you know, he can sort of watch my gear, and I ain't got to be too paranoid about watching my gear while I'm trying to concentrate on the playing the fish. So yeah, sort of played the fish now, slowly from underneath the jetties, and luckily it only stayed on the T part of the jetties, so it was like sort of out in open water, but the line was just underneath the T part, as you can see. So yeah, I was relatively lucky, you know, got the fish in like from underneath the jetties, but yeah, what a mad fight, like stripping line like that. Sort of like, as the fish is coming up in the water now, you know, I'm sort of looking, I'm thinking to myself, that's the bloody ghostie, like, I'm thinking, no way, like, she has never ever fought like this. I'm sort of looking, I'm thinking, yeah, this is the ghostie. So I'm like, no way. So anyway, he's got her in closer, and yeah, boom, slipped the net underneath her. and sort of like lifted her up out of the water. And because I've had her so many times, I figured to myself, like, I just want to get her back, sort of thing. But sort of lifted her up and stuck her in the mat to, like, obviously just to get her into a sling so I can just get my stuff back in the car and not worry about that. And as I've put her onto the mat and sort of like gone to remove the hook, I've sort of looked into the mat, and as I've gone to remove the hook, I've sort of looked, and the hook is like straight like a sewing needle. It had absolutely opened out the hook like completely like a sewing needle, you know. And as you can see, you know, I've still got this rig to this day. I sort of keep it in an old tackle box in my cupboard, you know, as a little trophy, you know, a little memory for me. But yeah, it sort of opened up the hook, you know. It was mad, like, to see that the fish had actually opened up the hook like this. It's one that I've never ever like, experienced before, sort of thing. But yeah, crazy, you know, but what a fish, you know. I've caught it so many times, and as you can see from the pictures, you know, she's an absolute beauty of a fish. You know, she was at her biggest weight when I caught her this time, so that's maybe why she fought like that, but I don't know. But yeah, I've caught her at quite a few different times, so I'll throw in a few different pictures of when I've caught her. But yeah, what a fish, like, absolutely hectic. But yeah, happy times as always, and I've literally just done that in time, because I don't know if you can hear it now, but I'll show you actually. The boating club have come out. They're out with the old generator, and they're going to wash the jetty down for the day so that they can use the jetty for the day for their boats. So yeah, that's what I'd have to put up with trying to film. There you go. So, happy times as always, and I'll catch up with you soon. Be sure to check episode 5, because episode 5 is going to be an absolute banger.